Okay, cost of production is so important. We know that in farming. So we're going to talk about kind of how we calculate that. Why do we have to know the cost of production? Well, certainly because you got to know how to price your item. So we want to ensure that you're charging more than it's costing you to make it, right? And that's going to take some planning on the front side to ensure that you're making a profit, okay? So we have fixed costs that you're going to pay no matter whether you have good product, bad product, lots of it, or little of it. And then we have those variable costs that vary in sync with how much you're doing, how much you're producing, or how much you're planting anyway. So those fixed costs, we call them operating costs. Sometimes we call them indirect costs, rent, the management salaries that got to get paid whether you're doing well or whether you're not doing well. Utilities, yeah, there's some amount of utilities that go up if you're doing a whole lot, but you know, they're pretty much those fixed costs. And then our variables, loan payments. Actually, loan payments are, I'll give you the accounting answer. The interest is a fixed cost. The loan payment principal is actually on your balance sheet. It's affecting the loan. What you owe is going down as you make loan payments. So, but yeah, the interest is a fixed cost. So fixed costs are things like that lease of land, administrative salaries, or all those kind of overhead salaries. Marketing materials, printing those brochures, doing regular advertising, making utility payments, paying for your website, paying for the website to be maintained and hosted by somebody. Freight out, we kind of put, because that depends, sometimes you negotiate the freight out into your selling price, in which case then it becomes a variable cost, right? And then these are examples of variable costs. Production labor, like you bring those people in to harvest, to pick, to cut, do those kinds of things. That includes their benefits and their taxes. It's all part of that production labor and varies with your production, right? And then using equipment, especially if you're leasing it, seed, feed, ingredients, bringing the freight in, bringing the seed in, bringing whatever it is in, and then your packing materials, obviously that will vary. You have to understand the difference between fixed costs and variable costs. Advertising, well, it depends. Most of it is probably going to be fixed because most of it you're going to have, I don't know what kind of advertising exactly you're doing, but if you're printing material or you're maybe you're doing print ads, maybe you're doing flyers, depends on what it is. It varies to some degree, but for the most part it's fixed. So it's a maybe, right? It's largely fixed perhaps, but maybe variable. How about debit credit card fees? We have a mixed response. Would you defend your answer? I would tend to say that it's variable because it's usually, if you're using a Square or something, it's like 2-point-something% on every sale. If you're using some other machine and pay a different, but usually it's directly varies with your sales, right? How about production labor? Variable cost. How about insurance? Fixed. Yep, we can agree on that one. Interest expense, I already told you that one because somebody asked me that trick question. And then seedlings? Variable. Yep. And bank service charges? Yeah, pretty well fixed. They get their money always. Utilities? Yeah, that's one of those maybes again. To some degree, to the large degree, it's fixed, but then there's some variance when your production goes above a certain level, right? But by and large, most of it's fixed. And then feed and fertilizer? Varies, yeah. Good job. You guys are with me. I love it. So then we have to know our total cost and divide it by the quantity to get our average cost. That's pretty simple. And our next slide will show us that big difference, right? If we're producing nothing, but we have fixed costs of $100, it's bad. If we make 10 and we have fixed costs and only $20 in variable costs, we get down to an average cost of $12. It's looking better. So obviously, as our production goes up, our average cost goes down. But even when it's zero, and these are low numbers. I don't know anybody that has $100 in fixed costs. It's usually closer to 1,000 perhaps. You want to be tracking your average cost and making sure that you're keeping it current. So takeaways on that: know your total cost of production. Be aware of that fixed variable and how it's going to affect you. Include your shipping in and your shipping out when you're making calculation of this. Be sure you're considering the packaging that it's taking you to get it to market when you're calculating your cost. Those are just things that it's really easy to lose sight of. You got to do your homework, and you're going to need to, figure it out. Even if it's down to a few cents, it adds up. Okay, the other thing, you got to know your competitors' prices. This is where it becomes really important to stay in touch with your competitors and your farmers union or your industry organization really adds value to you. What's happening in the local industry or in the industry, and those percentages, like for what should my percentage of direct cost be, of what should my percentage be for a net profit or a gross profit. So we can get some of that through a business librarian, but a lot of it, specifically in agriculture, you're only going to get from an association. Whatever the industry is, we see that knowing your competitors, what their selling price is, of course, that's relatively easy to get. You can call around or you can go figure out what that is. But knowing what their costs are, that's a little bit harder to get, and you sometimes can only get it through a growers association or something like that. So adjust your price when your costs go up. And that's tough when you're in a commodity market, isn't it? When you're one of many papaya growers, how much option do you have to raise your price? Not too much, because to most people, papaya is a papaya. It's only on the marketing side, perhaps, that you're going to be able to affect your price, that you're maybe going to sell it in a different way or cut out a middleman or distinguish it or know your farmer, that kind of thing. But you got to know your terminology when you're talking prices. Margin is taking that selling price, subtracting out the total cost, so we're talking both fixed and variable costs, your average cost, and then dividing it by the selling price, right? So this is going to get us at 42.9, call it 43% margin. Margin means profit. But then when we talk markup, is your selling price, this part's the same, but it's the divisor that's different, right? And so they're talking 75% markup in that case. And keystoning in Hawaii means what they bought it for plus the shipping to get it here. And then they're marking that up 100%. Okay? So when you start negotiating, it gets sticky. Make sure you've included all your costs, your packing costs, your shipping costs, your production costs, and all, and that you've worked it out kind of both ways on a piece of paper before you go in and start talking deals and contracts with people. Wholesale markup, it varies a lot. It varies a lot depending on the product and depending on the demand. It could be marked up anywhere from 75 to 150%. It totally depends. There's no guideline. And that's where you get to, you got to get out and talk to people. You got to be watching what other people are doing. Your market research is customer research, and you've got to find out, deal with several wholesalers maybe and figure out how they do it. So don't be embarrassed that you don't know this going in. Or maybe you've been doing it for a while and you still don't know this, but you can figure it out. So if we were talking 75% markup, we'd be selling this what costs us $2 for $3.50. But if we were talking 150% markup, you might think, oh, that must be $7. But no, it's $5. So you got to gauge it by how much is the customer paying ultimately for something, and then backing out a lot of times. Because you always have a range of what you can sell something for. The top range is what people are going to buy it for. And the bottom range is, what did I make it for? What did it cost me to produce it? So you got to know what your range is. And then once you set up a really good model, you can just change the production number in there and the selling price number, and it'll calculate out how much profit you end up with. Getting somebody to distribute your product that you grow or make is really golden. It's golden, because you can't get everywhere and deliver everything. Or maybe you can, but it's going to cost you time one way or the other. So it's golden when you can get a distributor, but if you're not negotiating the right price, it's not such a cool thing. It's not a good thing for you after all. You're better off to take it direct to the market and get what you can get for it. So then we're just going to talk product to market. Make sure you have a primo display. How many of you can think of somebody that has top-notch display?
The Filthy Farm soaps?
Oh, Filthy Farm Girl. We know about those all over the island, right? They're the bomb. They are the bomb. When I first moved here, I remember going up to him at the farmer's market, and I'm like, this is a very cool product. I just want to know, and I wasn't doing what I do. Everybody know these soaps? He used to be an illustrator of children's books. So he designs all the labels himself, and he has a Filthy Farm Girl for the sailor, for the policeman, for the this and this and this. They're the bomb to take, to people. Omiyagi, great stuff. So, and they have a very nice display. They do a really good job. So my point being, you got to plan your display, and it's got to be excellent. People spend so much more money when they're in the mood. And so if you're doing direct to market, you've really got to pay attention to and plan it out. But then, of course, there are costs that go along with that direct to market. If you're in a farmer's market, you're paying fees. If you're in a craft fair, any of those, you're paying fees. You got to get the stuff there, transporting it, shipping it, having labor at the event. So you got to plan for the labor and getting the people there. What is the business model? How are you going to sell your thing? What's going to set it apart? How's it going to be different? All that. And this takes you through the process. And think in your mind, your business model for, let's say it's Christmas trees, okay? So what's your value proposition? And just jot down there. What value do you add to the marketplace? Make Hawaii Keiki happy. Awesome. Awesome. Anybody else? Healthy trees locally grown. Very good. Okay, let's go to the one on the far right that says, who do you help? So who are you selling to? Remember we talked about your ideal customer, your target market. Who are you selling to? Maybe you're going to wholesale. Maybe that's all you're going to do. Maybe you're going to do it differently, but who do you help?
This is the story of Beth, her friend Carl, and an idea they believed could become a great business. It's the story of how they succeeded. And if you're an entrepreneur or anyone with a great idea, it could easily be your story too. But let's begin at the beginning. See, even if you have a great idea, success is far from assured. That's because for every great idea that has shaped our world, there are thousands of seemingly great ideas that have flopped. In order to succeed, a great business idea needs a great business model, and they're not the same thing. Once your idea meets the world, it will meet customers. If they don't care about the problem your idea solves for them, it's game over. But even if customers love your value proposition, you can fail if your business model is not scalable and financially sustainable. You'll need to find reliable channels to reach and acquire your customers. You'll need to build an infrastructure that won't collapse as your business begins to grow. Failing to do just one of these things can mean death to your business, however great your idea is. That's why your first work is to search for the right business model, to map this world of challenges so it can be tamed and organized, allowing you to explore it, manage it, and plan for it. What if there was a tool that could help you with this challenge, simply and visually? A tool that makes it easier to stress test your ideas, track your progress, and avoid breaking the bank along the way. What if it was possible to design and test business models in a way that gives your idea a better shot at rising to the level of the great businesses that are shaping our world? It is, and though the journey for these guys, and for you, won't be a walk in the park, all you'll need is your creativity, willingness to work, and passion for your idea. We'll give you the rest. This is the Business Model Canvas. It's just what Beth and Carl will need to craft a powerful business model, and it can do the same for you. Let's dive in and see how it works. There are 9 essential building blocks that make up any business model. When you get all 9 blocks working together, you'll have answered the fundamental questions any business model must solve. We'll start here with customer segments. These are all the people or organizations for which you're creating value. For each segment, you have a specific value proposition. These are the bundles of products and services that create value for your customers. Channels describe through which touchpoints you're interacting with customers and delivering value. The customer relationships outline the types of relationships you're establishing with your customers and how you're acquiring and retaining them. Pricing mechanisms through which your business model captures value are documented under revenue streams. The key resources show which assets are indispensable in your business model, so you can describe the infrastructure you need to create, deliver, and capture value. The key activities show which things you need to be able to perform well. The key partners show who can help you leverage your business model, since you won't own all key resources yourself, nor will you perform all key activities. And once you understand your business model's infrastructure, you'll also have an idea of its cost structure. Any business model can be mapped this way: 9 building blocks working to reinforce and strengthen each other. But before you make a model for yourself, it helps to see what a breakthrough business model looks like in action. Like this one. Low-cost airlines revolutionized air travel thanks to their disruptive business model. Let's first look at their value proposition. A low-cost airline offers ultra-cheap flights to their main customer segment, budget travelers, by adopting a no-frills policy. And this leads to additional revenue streams, because customers pay for their ticket and additional fees on items like food and drink, priority boarding, and luggage. The airlines save even more money through their choice of channels, selling only through call centers and the internet, making for efficient, if not always convenient, customer relationships that are automated and often impersonal. Okay, that covers the right side of the canvas, the part everyone can see. The left side of the canvas is what's going on backstage. Like their choice of key resources, they reduce maintenance and training costs by using a single aircraft model for the whole fleet. And they only fly to cheap airports where it's cost efficient to land, or where they even get paid to touch down. Planes that do land have quick turnarounds, so they get back in the air earning money as quickly as possible. And they form key partnerships with others in the travel industry, like car rental, hotel, and insurance companies. Finally, under cost structures, all maintenance, training, airport, and call center costs are trimmed to their lowest levels. All of these pieces working together make their fares almost impossible for traditional airlines to compete with. There's nothing superior about these airlines except their business models. they're reaching an entirely new segment of travellers out of reach for traditional airlines. Cutting out costs is pretty exciting, right? But wait, just because it's successful for discount airlines doesn't mean it will work for your idea. Luckily, the business model canvas allows you to iterate many models and test them quickly. Let's get started with your own business idea.
The idea with a business model is before you invest money, before you really invest a whole lot of time, you think through what you want to do, what your idea is, what your value proposition, what's different about what you're going to do compared to everybody else, and then test it out and go out and talk to people sooner than you might otherwise. Because the big failure is you have this great idea, you spin off, go down the road, invest time, money, and then when you bring it to market, there's not the response that you expected. So the idea is you map it out on this canvas there, and you can do it over and over again and tweak it. So you might build the model that you're going to wholesale all your trees, for instance. That's your model, and you would work it through what are my key connections, how do I interact with people, who are you selling that to, and so on, and then work out a rough sketch of the financial, the revenue streams that's down there on the bottom right corner, and then work through this thing on paper, go and talk to people, and see how it works through before you actually do it. Because remember, we're talking idea, so you're taking your idea, you're going to map it out on this model, then you're going to test it out. And what I think often is rarely does plan A happen. That's a fact of life. That's a fact of business. You're going to learn more by mapping it out, initially saying, this is what I plan to do. Then going out, testing the market, talking to customers, and then coming back and tweaking that thing until you get a business model that works. This is the way that you can visualize it, put it down, map it out, and then test it. So what would you be doing? Who's your target segment of customers? And then how are you going to reach those customers? What's your method of doing that? And how do you interact with those customers? How are you going to build that market? Then what does that model come out to in revenue? What does that model make? What do you think you're going to end up with in profit, say? And then what key things do I need to do really well with that model? What do I need to buy? So that list of all the things you're going to have to get, whether it's a land lease or it's equipment or it's rented equipment for 3 months to clear the land, prepare the land, such. All those key resources. Then who am I going to have to partner with to make this work? And then down to, okay, what did these things actually cost you? I think this is really a great way to think your idea through. I know most of you are not going to go home and write a business plan today, but this you can actually do. Let's say you did it in pencil and then see, oh, maybe it doesn't work out that well, but go out and talk to people. Maybe your estimates of the revenue that you could make on Christmas trees are higher than you thought or lower than you thought. This is a way, I want to present it because for a number of reasons, but I think it's really fruitful for you to use. I want you to use it, okay? So let's say that our value proposition is we're going to market locally grown Christmas trees in Hilo, and I'm going to grow Norfolk pine. That's my value proposition. I'm going to specialize in Norfolk pine, and that's my market. So who's my customer segment? I would go right to that SMS report, right to the things Nancy distilled. They're usually women. They're usually lived in Hawaii from 10 to 20 years. and really define who my customer segment is. I don't remember those specifics, quite frankly. Then how am I going to distribute to them? So I have an option. I probably have several options. I can wholesale my trees to KTA probably. KTA probably buy them. They like local. I'm going to be at Farmers Market all the month of December. That's how I'm going to reach them. Farmers Market is my plan. This plan A. Okay, how do I interact with those customers? I have a dynamic Christmas tree, happy little Christmas display. All my workers are happy elves. They're, cheery. One guy is, trimming trees for them, making a little stand if that's what they want. We are the happiest little Christmas place you ever came to. That's our interaction. That's our brand, okay? So how much do we make? Well, let's just say I have 300 trees to sell. My target price is $100 a tree because they're locally grown. Nobody else doing this right now. I think I could jump on it. Okay, that's my plan right now. That's what I think. So how much could I make? 300 trees, $100 a piece. What's that? 30,000 potentially? That's high, right? That's a good optimistic shoot for it, yeah? Okay, so then what do I need? I got to get 300 trees, first of all. And then how do you do it? What do we have to do well to make this work? How do I do it? So I would be putting it in the paper. I would be doing public releases. I would get everybody and his buddy who could be my friend to help me with the Facebook page and Instagram. I would map those out. I would have a marketing plan by week of what I was going to do because it's a short window, man. I got to do it from November 25th to December 24th. And on December 24th, we're not getting top dollar probably. Maybe we are, but maybe not. So the dynamo display, happy employees pictured in those, pictures, video. Video's it, man, on short video, like 1 minute, 1.5 minutes. The way to do it on Instagram, Facebook, those kind of things, right? And then who's going to help me? See if I can find a scouting troop or a youth group or something like that to work with me. Then it's going to change my revenue. It's going to change, probably my key resources are the same, but you get the idea. Key activities, I've got to help them. I got to enlist them then. They could really help me. They could be using their network, their Facebook, their Instagram, their whatever. Okay, so those are my key partners for one. Their family members, giving out flyers, having incentives for them. We could do it that way. They could be incentivized for all the trees or things that they sell, right? And then down to what will it cost? And then we actually start working out what's that really going to cost me to get them there, to pay for the market for 30 days, to have someone security there, keeping those trees alive. How many do we cut when? Got to go back to the key activities. I didn't really iterate that, right? Do we want to cut them all at the same time, or do we want to wait? So then we're down to what will it cost us and actually working out the numbers. So I hope that's of some use to you because like I said, I don't think you're going to run home and create a business plan, but it's a good way. It's all the pieces we talked about today are in there. We're talking marketing, we're talking, owner, our team members and all that stuff is in there, okay? Thank you so much for your attention this afternoon. I really appreciate it.